Hi, welcome to Solutions for Seniors. I'm Linda Pellerin, the Executive Director of the Shepherd Center of Charlotte. And we have this program for seniors because there's a lot of information out there for seniors in the Charlotte community, a lot of services and programs. And the Shepherd Center of Charlotte, of course, works with seniors. And we thought this would be a good way, another avenue for us to get the word out to the seniors in the community. Our guests today are Adele Mahan, and she is with Fresh Start Transitions, and also Brian Carney, who is with Silver Cross. And today we're going to be focusing on the home, especially the home of seniors. Seniors, Adele, seniors just have, you know, some of them are still in their big old house, and you know, they have a lot of things there and everything. And as a senior ages, sometimes it's hard to negotiate the stairs, or even if it's just, even if the house is a ranch, they may have stairs that go down into the garage, or, you know, go out to the front or whatever. And so what is it that you do with seniors?
Well, I like to go in their home and I can do a safety assessment, help them decide what they need to do to make their home safe. The stairs is a huge issue, like you said, and there's many solutions for that, and so I'll have the resources to help guide them to that solution. One of the biggest things that I see happen in the home are throw rugs, and I tell seniors this is a free thing that you can do to make your home safe. Throw rugs are beautiful and people are very emotional about them, but they are a huge tripping hazard, and I've even tried to find statistics to show how many people fall on a throw rug, and I cannot find them, but yet I've asked everyone I talk to, and I would say 80% will say a throw rug. Either their foot gets tripped or the little fringe on the end. So my number one message to those is to please get rid of your throw rugs, or if you can't do that, I know that they're beautiful and you're very emotional about them, at least put some double-sided tape on them, and maybe not have so many around.
Now, what if a senior has hardwood floors? Because that's a lot of times where you'll throw down the throw rugs.
That's right.
And, you know, what is the alternative? Because sometimes hardwood floors can be slippery.
Yes, but they're probably the safest, though, because there isn't a tripping hazard. Yes, they would be the best resource. Sometimes it's okay to have one rug under your table or one into your living room, but just not to have them all over the place. Yeah, and what else are you seeing, you know, as far as what can be a safety hazard for seniors? Well, the bathroom is the number one place that people fall also, or the second that I've seen. Grab bars are huge, and I find that many seniors, I think, are afraid to get them because they're afraid that they'll be a step further down the process. I think some of them are afraid because they feel like they're institutional and they're not attractive, and some of them just don't think about it. But I was doing some research, and the average fall can cost over $20,000, not including your doctor fees. And usually that helps seniors realize that we need to do what it takes to make your home safe and prevent that fall. And grab bars are huge to put those, install them, going in your doorways, in your bathroom, by your toilet, going into your shower. The countertops, people don't realize they hang onto the countertops. They get very slippery with water and you can slip right over. People don't realize a soap dish or your paper, toilet paper holder, they will pop in an instant if you try to hang on to those. Also, a towel rack will pop. My towel rack pops just trying to put my towel on it. So, and the problem is people say, well, I'm not going to grab hold of that. Well, you don't know that when you go to fall. You're going to grab the first thing that comes in your way. And so it's really important to put those things in place. And another message I really like to get across with the grab bars, they come in beautiful styles now. They make them in different finishes and different shapes and to match your fixtures. They even have them where you can have two grab bars and put one on top of the other and put your towels on it. So you don't even know you have a grab bar in the house. But yet when you go to fall, it's going to hold you up.
Now, I have to share with you, when we bought our house 25 years ago, we bought it, it was for sale by owner, and it was an elderly couple, and the gentleman brought us room to room, and he brought us into the hallway bathroom, and that was his selling point. Was his wife had arthritis, and so he said, and we've installed the grab bars, you know, around the tub and everything. And I'm thinking to myself, because I was like in my 30s, and I'm thinking, oh yeah, that's a real big selling point. But I got to tell you, you know, I mean, I broke my ankle a while back, you know, 3 years ago or whatever, and I use those darn things,
Yeah,
you
they're
know,
handy.
they really came in handy. And to me, of course, I've aged into the house, so I'm kind of glad they're there now. So it's not really a stigma to me. I mean, it came with the house, and I didn't appreciate it at first, but I do now. So
Helped you age in place.
there you go. I am aging in place, by golly.
You know, you bring to mind, there's a term called universal design. It's come out of North Carolina State University, and it's really exciting. The home builders now are grasping exactly what you said. There are products that you can install in your home that are for all ages, not just the elderly. It's for the old, the young, the tall, and the short, and children, and grab bars is one of them. Grab bars can really help a small child in a bathtub or in a shower.
My grandsons had used it too, so that, you know, they were having fun with it too.
So, that's
yeah.
right. And it's funny because my mother bought a home that she calls her aging in place home. It has a very large shower. It's lipless, and all the grandkids love her shower. They go in and play, and so anyway, yes, it can be for all ages, and that was a great point you brought up.
Yeah, and I'm going to scoot over here now to Brian, because this is what you do, isn't it? With Silver Cross, you supply the materials to put into homes to make them safer for seniors, right?
That's right. That's right. We do. We supply a lot of the equipment, and again, we'll go through the assessment much with Adele. Sometimes we're working jointly on those assessments to make sure that you've got the right environment and make it safe not only for the people that are living there, but the caregivers that might be in there helping. So it's all a matter of trying to match up what is the right environment, what equipment is needed, what modifications might be needed to the home itself to be able to make a safe environment.
Tell me about some of the products that you have.
Well, there's a variety. If we're talking about bathrooms, for example, you know, grab bars are a great place to start, but there's also things that can be done stepping into a bath. If people are bath people, they're bath lifts that just can be placed in the bath to be able to help someone that has problems going over just that edge of the bathtub. There are one item, particularly when we're talking about different ages too, that would accommodate and be helpful for all, is the higher commodes, being able to put in those commodes that, again, traditionally you think that's something that is pretty standard and has been standard, but people have evolved, and now the commodes have evolved too, to be able to make it a
Mine
nice...
is still really kind of low.
Oh.
Well, that's exactly a lot of people,
those.
and then you need the grab bars to be able to get down that, but that sort of helps with that.
This is why I do yoga.
And those are all those transitions. There's basins and faucets that can be attached to the actual walls themselves, so you don't have the actual vanities there that you sit there and can potentially put your hands on, so that creates more space. So you take a look at ways of creating more space. You take a look at ways of trying to eliminate hard edges or corners around things. So there's a variety of products, and what I like to say is also in this arena, there's been a lot of development and a lot of thought put into it, and a lot more of the designers and marketers are starting to take over from the engineers, so things don't start looking as institutional as they did, and they're fitting much more nicely into the home, and so it's a much more natural type of look. We also work with people once they get into various stages, if they have transfer issues, all the way to ceiling lifts that can help someone transfer in a bathroom. And also, again, just sort of modifications in terms of roll-in showers or something that's very popular, and probably one of the first things that when Dell and I look at areas, try to look at ways that they can sit there and modify and create that type of environment.
Now, isn't there a product where, I've seen it on websites, where it's a tub, but there's like a door so that you don't have to like step over into the tub? Do you have things like that too?
Yes, then those are modifications or cutouts of tubs there. A lot depends on part of the assessment that we go through is trying to talk to people about what their real goals are and what's important to them. And so part of the thought process is, do you want a modification to the home? How easily do you want it changed from a resale value? What do you think of the home? What adds value? What could potentially detract in your mind? And so when you're talking about cutout tubs, being able to put a lift in the tub, turning it into a roll-in shower. There's walk-in bathtubs also, again, that you can sit there and go in and have jets and jacuzzis in that. All those have pluses and minuses to them, and that's part of the evaluation thought process. And part of the key is to sit there and make sure that you start focusing on what's important to that particular family in that particular home.
Now, what about cost? Does Medicare cover any of this, or is there any kind of insurance, or you know, or is family just like, you know, they are determined to stay in their own home and they don't care how much it costs? I mean, you know, how do they?
That's a great question. That's a great question. We get the funding question all the time on that, and we're sort of in an interesting space. It's a sort of a space where most of the real estate people think of it as medical equipment, and medical people think of it as real estate, and so it's sort of in that netherland that's really sort of hard to tell. Most of it, Medicare, Medicaid doesn't cover because, again, the government from that perspective tends to think of it more as home improvement, and they tend to help with things that are more manual in nature. So if there's anything that's powered and really assisting from a lift type of environment, they tend to not get into helping on the funding side. But there are resources to be able to help with those. There are groups that will help, whether it be vocational rehab. VA does assist in some of these instances. So there are particular programs, particular groups that we can guide people to, if people have the patience to be able to go through that process and look for the funding.
Because VA is so easy to go through.
Right. Exactly. So part of that is sort of the trade-off of how dire is the need and how much patience you have in terms of going through that type of process. One of the things I think your guest last month mentioned was long-term care contracts, and some of this is covered under long-term care contracts if they're home modification type clauses within long-term care contracts. So that's another reason to be able to look at that. Most people think of long-term care contract from the perspective of just getting support and help in the home to be able to stay. But the insurers have gotten smart enough now that they're starting to put clauses in there. And so that's something that people ought to look at. And if they're considering a long-term care contract, really try to put in there so that they have ability to have these pockets of modifications and home modifications that they can do in the home.
Now, let's talk about stairs.
Yes.
Because stairs are, and even Adele said, you know, it's a big problem. You know, people fall on them, they trip on them, and a lot of seniors can't even negotiate them anymore, but they want to still stay in their home. Right. And I know some of them modify, they bring their bedroom downstairs if they can, or whatever, but what if they can't do that? What is a choice for them?
Right. Actually, a situation that my parents, and one of the reasons I started this business was my parents got caught on the middle level of a 3-level home, and negotiating those stairs, what was going to be the solution for them. The solution that a lot of folks go to is a stair lift, which is just a seat that's on a rail system, and again, will just take you from one floor to the next. Those can be straight, those can handle curves, variety of ways, and it also can be recycled too and placed in another home if for whatever reason you don't want it there in the home anymore. So that is the primary solution oftentimes that you take a look at. There is ability to be able to modify homes sometimes to be able to put an elevator in. So some folks look at elevators higher cost, but oftentimes a higher value added to the home value itself to be able to do that. And for elevators, typically you like to try to get in sort of on the ground floor, so to speak, when you're really designing a home, or if they're designing a whole new space, then being able to put in some space for that, even maybe not right away, but down the road. So a lot of what we try to do is consult with a lot of our clients to be able to think forward and plan forward.
I live in an older neighborhood, and I noticed that some houses are being modified outside to accommodate for a disabled person, and where they have to put the ramps in. It's not easy to put a ramp in. I mean, it requires. I mean, is there like a government standard as far as the angle or something? Because it seems like some of them go like, this way and then that way and then this way again, and I always wondered about that. Or is it just the angle has to be so that whoever is in the chair can negotiate it on their own or whatever? I mean,
that's a great question too. When you look at modifying the outside, typically here in Charlotte, what do we have in the ground? Hard clay. Hard clay. Where I grew up in McLean, Virginia, we built basements, and so there was a lot of ability to be able to get on the same level. But here, even though people think they've done the right thing in terms of getting into a ranch, there's a crawl space typically, and so there's always that rise. There's those 5 or 6 steps right there, either getting into the house or getting into the back, that become problematic for folks. Typically, ramps become the first option that people think about, and normally people don't realize how long a ramp you really need to have to be able to get over a certain rise. So there are options to ramps where space is limited. So we've done things in garages to be able to get up and not to be able to take up the whole garage space in terms of vertical platform lifts that at a certain point become cost effective to be able to do. Going back to your question about what the size of the ramp needs to be, ADA has some standards, and that's typically where I sort of view that as a starting point to have the discussion, but then you sort of have to go back to Adele's point of universal design. You go back to trying to adapt what that standard should be to specifically a person's individual situation. So you start asking the questions of, okay, do you want to design it for assisted, unassisted environment? Are you going to be in just a wheelchair? Is it going to be a power chair? And is the person going to navigate that? If so, power chair scooters have a slope rating that you sit there and start calculating exactly what angle you need to have for that. If you're assisting, you can typically get to 2 inches for 1 foot of rise, and that's sort of the ADA standard. If you are looking for a completely unassisted ability to be able to go wheelchair, so that's 1 inch and 1 foot of rise, 1 foot of run for 1 inch of rise, and so it really adds up. You're talking about a typical step being 7 inches. You're talking about 6 or 7 feet of ramp for an unassisted ramp.
So it could be like 20 feet of ramp, and that's why we're seeing all of that.
Exactly. So a lot of times you go into these garages and people say, "Oh, I've got some space here to be able to put a ramp," and then you start really. I'm a visual person, so I always have to sit there and lay out the measure and saying, well, here's what it's going to take, and here's where it's going to take you, and how it sort of loops around, and pretty soon takes up the garage to be able to sit there and take a look at those. And so that's when you start looking at different alternatives. And again, it could be a little stair lift, just to depend on their condition, or it could be a platform lift. It just depends on what their condition is. And also try to get into looking forward. What do we think is going to be the course of events, or what do you want to plan for?
Yeah, where are they going to go? Or is
Exactly.
it something where they're going to deteriorate even more or whatever?
And even if they're not, or even if they just want to be ready for that eventuality. I've got a lot of clients that sit there and say, no, I think we're going to be fine and it's going to be good. But I really do want to, just in case, have this in place so I'd feel better. So it's much like sort of insurance.
And what about resale value? Because you mentioned that. I mean, should somebody go through all the modifications, or should they be calling Adele and downsizing or whatever? What about resale? I mean, is that something that really affects the home? I mean, it didn't so much for me because I just had the little railings, in my bathroom. But
and I'd like to say, well, go ahead.
I think it is very dependent on what that modification is and what that change is, and that should be something that we talk about early on in that process. And depending on what the feeling is, you can start looking at either portable solutions or more permanent solutions. As a quick example, and then I'll let Adele talk. When we're talking about ceiling lift. Say we have someone that needs to be taken care of in a transfer type of situation. Typically what most people think of in a ceiling lift is either, or in a lift situation, is a Hoyer lift, which is a manual and sometimes assisted lifting, or a ceiling lift like a lot of people have seen on Extreme Home Makeover, where they've put in a ceiling lift that's permanently attached to the ceiling to be able to transfer someone. There's a lot of different solutions in between that are either semi-permanent, don't require attachment into the ceilings or into the walls, and there's some fully portable type of systems that have a lot more power and a lot safer than, say, a Hoyer type of lift. So that's all part of the discussion that you end up getting into before you determine what's the ultimate solution.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'd just like to add, I'm also a home stager and I used to be a realtor, and so this is a big thing, big passion in my heart. But the beauty of this universal design is that there's so many things that do add value to your home, and that's really the message I'm trying to get across. You know, they're the lipless showers. Well, if you go look at all your new homes, they have tiled showers that are lipless, and it's part of the style. And, you know, the bench is made out of the tile, and so it's actually upgrading your home and adding value. Brian was talking about elevators. That is a hot thing right now with the new homes, to have an elevator. So to add an elevator can really bring in value to you. It can be a wonderful positive feature of your home.
Well, plus it makes everyone think that you're very wealthy.
Yeah, it does. What's interesting, I have a client right now who had a stroke at a lake house, and it's 3-story. It's a beautiful home, and they're debating to do that, and they didn't want to add, bring the value down in their home. And we got chuckling because I was like, you know, to live in this lake house, it was way up on a hill, 3 stories, down a huge hill to the lake. I'm like, you're actually going to add value to put that elevator in there, because anyone's going to want to use it. So,
now some of the other things, since we're talking with you now. When you go into a home and a senior is maybe going to maybe downsize or whatever, what do you find is the most difficult thing in helping them do that?
Well, it's a very emotional process. People love their stuff. They don't know what to do with it. They don't know how to choose what to get rid of. I find the biggest thing that they struggle with, they don't want to throw things away. And to downsize does not mean to throw things away. There's lots of resources out there. There's ways to sell things. There's charities that are dear to your heart. I find many of my seniors really don't care about making money. They just want to give it to someone who really appreciates their things. For some, they're overwhelmed. There's so much, they don't quite know where to start. Another thing that a lot don't realize till they talk to me is just the physical ability to do it. It takes a lot of physical strength to climb up on countertops and pull down from the top, to haul big heavy bags to the street, to box things up, to get up in your attic. It's very dangerous. You have to be careful getting up in an attic. And so all those things are very difficult, but it's also emotional. A lot of times they're throwing away, you know, things from their babies, their children when they're babies, and things from their parents, and it's very hard to know what to do with it.
I was going to say, a lot of the attics are full of stuff that's been there for 30, 40 years.
Right, right.
You know, I try to ship the stuff off to my children as they moved out of the house. I'm like, by the way, take that too.
Yeah.
You know? And but I still have some of their stuff up in my attic,
right.
And so now, do you find that there's sometimes just a lot of clutter?
Yes.
That seniors, because they hang on to things sometimes, and how do you deal with that with them? How do you get them to, like, you know, kind of let loose the fingers from the stuff that they want?
Well, it takes a lot of patience and a lot of working with them. The clutter can be very dangerous, and I try to educate people that. We have one neat little trick. We get a yardstick, and you can walk around your home with a yardstick. You should have 36 inches between all your walkways. The clutter also is very dusty, and I've had many clients who've spent lots of money on doctors and allergy solutions, and then once you declutter, it's amazing your allergies are gone. So that's a huge selling point on decluttering. But it is hard. They have to want it, and it all depends on personality. You know, everyone's different, and some are more attached than others. But it's just we have to get in and help them talk through the process and get started. But a lot of times, once you get help, if it's your family or friend or church, it can kind of help you in the right direction.
Mm-hmm. And are you finding, do you Do you help people, is it mostly that you're downsizing, or do you go into homes where they're staying in their homes and you're trying to make the home more comfortable for them?
I help both. Some are moving into senior communities, and so they're downsizing or moving to a smaller home, and then some are trying to stay to age in place. It's interesting because as I help people get their homes prepared to sell, many times, and I'm sure a lot of people can relate, you do all this work to get your home ready to sell, and then you're about ready to put it on the market, and you go, wow, I love my home. It's too bad I didn't do this before.
Why didn't I decorate that way before? Yes.
I'm really trying to, I wish so much that seniors would grasp this. Let's do this when you're 50 and 60. I'm doing it in my home at 45, you know. Let's make it so that you can enjoy your home, enjoy your later years, that you can live stress-free, can be clean, allergy-free, fall-free, and make all those changes and just enjoy your home. It's really my message.
What do you think is the most difficult thing for seniors when they're thinking about either moving to a smaller place or they're thinking about, you know, trying to age in place? What do you find is their biggest concern?
What to do with my stuff.
Yeah.
And what do I take, or if they're leaving, and what do I keep? It's just overwhelming. It's very daunting, and they just don't know where to start. But we have many resources. You can sell things on eBay. You can have estate sales, auctioneers, give to charities, people you love. One thing I do try to tell people, and I've seen this a lot, they'll try to have a garage sale and they're getting rid of their favorite things. And I had one lady, she had a phonograph that was her grandmother's, and she was in the opera and she was going to give it away at a garage sale, and she showed me everything in her home and nothing meant anything. She got to this piece and just lit up, and I'm like, why are you selling this? She's like, because I don't need it. But we try to help them realize you can use your things in different ways and try to keep the things you love, and that seems to really help them realize that, okay, this isn't about just getting rid of everything I love in life and living a blah life. So that seems to help.
Now, you both are involved with, is it the Senior Resource
Alliance?
Mm-hmm. And the website for that is?
GCSRA.com.
Okay, wonderful. I thank you both for being here. I think the information was very informative, and if anyone would like to contact either Adele or Brian, you can, get their information through our website, which is the Shepherd Center of Charlotte website, www.charlotte.org, and our phone number 704-365-1995, and we will also have a copy of this program. If you're watching it now and you want to share it with your friends or family, all you have to do is go to our website. We will have it posted on our website, and they will also have it posted on theirs, but you can have a link. And again, the website is www.shepherdscharlotte.org, and that's Shepherds with an S on the end. It's a very long website. I'm sorry, I inherited it, and once it's out there in cyberspace, it's out there. So thank you for joining us. I look forward to seeing you next month, and thank you very much. Linda Pellerin signing out.